predominantly, I think the thing that's a lot of top of mind for a lot of people in movie world right now is the film that you got that all that cool merch for, The Substance, because it's out in a bunch of theaters.
Yep. Let's
And
start
I think the
with that one.
widest release from Mubi yet.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. They just charged me, so it better be out there getting where it needs to be. The Substance, the newest movie by Coralie Farge, who is a director that's been on my radar since her 2017 film, Revenge, which I thought was a really, really great thriller. She is a person who just knows her film history, especially in terms of like feminist studies, just the male gaze and how to invert that. So there was some pushback when Revenge came out in terms of that being a young woman who ends up out there at this getaway with a bunch of dudes where she then, I don't want to spoil too much, you kind of see a little bit in the trailer, she seeks her revenge, as the title says. And what's interesting is you notice these little earrings here are very similar to the same production design and earrings that you see in the new one. So she's got style, but she's also got substance. And this new movie takes everything that Revenge had going for it, ups it up a level. And I've just been chewing over so much stuff that happens in this movie. Break it down for anybody who doesn't know what The Substance is about or who may need a warning.
Yeah, I think the warning is the predominant thing because this is a pretty gnarly body horror comedy thriller of sorts. This is a film that is about a fading celebrity who decides to use a sort of off-market drug called the Substance that does some kind of like weird cell replication to temporarily create kind of a idealized, younger, more rejuvenated self. In order to kind of like preserve their good looks or get a taste of what they once had or something like that, right? This is a film that's pretty firmly focused on the way that we handle aging and we handle beauty, particularly when it comes to entertainment, because the lead actress here, Demi Moore, plays a sort of like TV star, Elizabeth Sparkle. It feels like she's like the star of her own Jane Fonda aerobics kind of thing, but a highly sexualized version of it where everybody's in these skin tight leotards and shows lots of leg and whatever. But obviously Demi Moore is an actress who is, not the hottest young person on the market anymore. She's in her. Look, I'm not complaining about getting to look at Demi Moore.
Suspension of disbelief, right? They show her right at the beginning, and I'm like, hey, I know a bunch of people in this theater right now in their 20s who wish they looked like Demi Moore.
Exactly, right? Like she is absolutely stunning, but at 61 years old, when you put her alongside somebody like Margaret Qualley, then you get to get into the kind of like little insecurities that people often pick at and feel like they see in themselves, right? Like I don't look at Demi Moore and see a woman who is whatever quote unquote past her prime, but like I think what's interesting about this movie is the way in which they kind of like hyper focus on the ways in which we are self-critical and can't see the best of ourselves. There's a lot of like extremely graphic body horror of limbs sort of coming apart and blood and pus and all sorts of liquids spewing out. But ultimately, I think like the most horrifying things about The Substance are those moments when these characters are hyper-focused on themselves and looking at all the little things they wish were better. There's a scene that is featured prominently in the trailers where Demi Moore is sort of looking at herself in the mirror, and that's one of the most anxiety-inducing parts of the movies to me.
Yeah, this is one of those where I know that some people may take this whole idea of because it's the environment that she's in, right? You got Dennis Quaid playing the person who keeps telling her 50 is the expiration date. Like, you're done past that. But this is something dudes go through as well. That scene you're talking about, you're ready to go out and just something ain't working, right? And you just keep going back. You keep going back to the point that you look in the mirror and you start seeing what they see at the end of this movie sometimes. And it's that idea where it's a very internalized thing. I've loved the breakdown of it's the violence you inflict on yourself because that's how you start viewing yourself. And this character isn't just going through these injections in order to be able to create her younger self. It becomes this metaphor of you almost being jealous of a past you can no longer be. This idea that when you're young as well, you're willing to do stuff that may affect your older body, but you're like, I don't have to worry about that now. And there's just so many different takes from the movie that I found to be enjoyable just if you're there to watch a body horror flick. But if you wanted more of that title, I think it's in there. And it's been fascinating seeing people like describe it who have not liked it. They've had like a reaction to it. And in like the middle of it, there's just not enough substance in the substance. They almost catch themselves in the middle of explaining it. I think it's one that's going to age well the same way that Revenge has been able to age well, because there's a lot of elements to it where, as you mentioned, the Fonda Fitness aerobics thing that's happening. She wants to be younger, and she wants to take this experimental drug so that she can participate in that, so that she can reach whatever new heights she hasn't been able to. And in that, there are a lot of sequences. That's the one thing I will say the movie does have a lot. As guys, we're probably not complaining, but there's a lot of camera shots specifically just on the sexiness, the gaze that comes from being this person
Ample
up on screen.
ass shots.
But what I find so fascinating is that a lot of people have complained about those scenes not realizing the purpose in the movie. They're clothed in those scenes. But when it comes to these moments where they're taking the substance, that's when they're actually butt naked. But you are so focused on that it's almost desensitized you for the moments when they are actually there in the bathroom, where it's the actual drama of what a person is seeing within themselves, the harm that they're doing within themselves in order to be able to appear younger, to chase what has been gone. And I think she's a genius in the way she directed this movie. I think Demi Moore is incredible in this. People have been calling it a comeback. She didn't go anywhere. She is firing all cylinders here. And I think it's some of the best that Margaret Qualley has been.
Yeah, and Qualley's had a pretty remarkable year. She did the, the Ethan Coen movie earlier this year, Driveway Dolls, that
Coen
we
brother, you're
enjoyed. She was fantastic in Kinds of Kindness, the latest from Yorgos Lanthimos. But here you really do get to see so much of what she's able to do. She has this really fun kind of devilish presence, and I think with all the characters here, there's sort of an element of like Icarus in that they all fly a bit too close to the sun. They're trying to achieve something that is ultimately going to be their downfall. And that's one of the things that I think is really fun about this. It is something that makes the general arc of the movie a little predictable, even if you may not predict like the exact thing that's going to happen next. You sort of see how this is kind of like a tragedy looming, right? But I think it doesn't matter so much to me that the story is maybe a little bit predictable, because as you said, it is so fun and stylish, and you just sort of like keeps you glued to the screen, whether it's because they're showing you like these really crazy body horror moments, or these really alluring kind of show within the movie moments that are the shining moments in the spotlight. I just found it to be really intriguing. I found it to be really entertaining. And it has a lot of interesting ideas about how society sort of reacts towards age and to youth and to vitality. And I don't know, I think this is going to be a lot of fun for most people.
For sure. I again, like you said, even if you know where it's kind of headed, I practically had the ending spoiled for me, but it's like the execution of it is still what's so insane. The balls to the wall element of it is fantastic, but it is rooted in those performances. Like, it's not about, this is another one about society. Like, we have The Uglies on Netflix right now, bro. Like, that's not a good movie. This is putting you in the shoes of what it feels like. It's using body horror to put you in a person's perspective of what they're willing to do to be able to achieve something. There's one moment where she like calls for the refund, right? As she's dealing with these doubles. And she just like straight up responds. They ask her, is like, are you not happy with your product? She's like, no, I just don't like myself. And there are some really, really good moments of just performances from Demi Moore that I thought were outstanding, mixed in with humor, coming from either the crazy neighbor next door to Dennis Quaid eating lobster, which was or shrimp. Sorry, it's shrimp, which was absolutely atrocious. I just thought it all worked.
He's so good in the film too, as this just like ultra Hollywood chauvinist.
Right?
It's an incredible performance. And you mentioned the Ray Liotta thing to me.
To this? Oh yeah. That it was going to be Ray Liotta, and then he comes in and kills it.
absolutely incredible in the part. You could definitely see why they would want a Ray Liotta type, and I don't think of Dennis Quaid as a Ray Liotta type, but he absolutely nails it here.
Yeah, no, he was fantastic in it. So I give it the full thumbs up. Obviously, with some warning, do not go out there and bring your family to go see The Substance. But for those of you who have never experienced body horror films or the like, this would be an incredible first one to have. But I think off of the trailer, you know what you're getting into. So don't be surprised when things start going awry. Right off the bat, they let you know.
Definitely.
It literally opens up with the star. And there's just disgusting sound design when it comes to everyone dropping stuff on it that it's already giving you the warning off the bat. You're like, this is gonna get sick. I thought it was incredible, fantastic. I'm looking forward to a rewatch.
Definitely, for sure. I think I am gonna go with 4 stars on this one. I think you went also 4 stars with it. Should we give it 4 stars, or maybe 4 stars and a heart for the
4 stars and a
Letterboxd?
heart, bro, through and through.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, so yeah, a reminder that you can follow along with all the movies that we talk about on this and every episode by following the Intercut Letterboxd account, where we are compiling lists of the latest movies that we talk about in Weekend Must Watch. All right, let's hit some of the midnight movies quickly. Art, you saw this one, so you can help Amanda out. Talk a bit about The Substance, the film that took Cannes by storm from Coralie Fargiat. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. Fargiat. Yeah.
It's good.
Amanda, what do you think about it?
It's really good. I love it. But I guess for me, I thought it peaked probably before the final act, even though I still really do enjoy the final act. There's just this kind of scene where there's just lots of screaming and kicking that I had a lot of fun with. And then it kind of keeps going where I kind of expected it to go. But more to the extreme. I don't know if I ever could have fully expected where the movie's going to end up going. It's really funny. Yeah. There's a scene with a cutout and some glue, and I was definitely the first person in the theater who caught on where that was going. So I'm like losing it laughing, and people are looking at me, and then they start to slowly laugh and they realize what's happening. It is a pretty horrific body horror at times. It does set you up early on to know that it's going to go places like you were watching somebody sew a spine back together, just to like, they really want you to know, like, we're going to be going all in here. And if you can't stomach this now, like maybe this isn't going to be for you, but it has such a unique vibe and feel to it. It kind of feels like, while it is all in the horror genre, it feels like it kind of swirls through a few different, as it's kind of building into like the extreme body horror that it ends up getting to in a way that escalates kind of similar to, I don't know, something you might expect from like Korean cinema, maybe, where it's like a lot of the times body horrors, you feel it kind of through the whole thing. This goes through a very steady increased progression of how horrific it's going to end up being, but still went a little bit further than I even fully anticipated it doing. It's definitely better than the other movie that has almost not the same, but very similar plot for this movie. It's true, yeah. So through the lens there, it says it's just extremely relentless and doesn't give up, and that is true. I would agree that it gives Titan a run for its money. I do think that Titan probably viscerally bothered me a little bit more, but yeah, Shell is the other movie that has seemingly almost an identical plot. It ends up being a lot more obvious in its like they say a lot of the stuff that Substance just leaves to be obvious in what you're watching. Some of it's so that Elizabeth Moss can like counter verbally, but they're saying a lot more than they're showing, and then they are showing a lot more than you ever thought they were going to show in Shell. But I grouped these two together because they have these similar elements of, it's sort of about women trying to use experimental treatments to improve or maintain their looks. I just found Shell to really lack a lot of the.
You caught that one?
Shell's the one that I caught. Amanda caught them both. Shell just sort of doesn't really do much beyond that surface level. Like, it's going for dumb, campy comedy, but it ends up just feeling dumb. And maybe that contrast just feels greater because it is in a festival alongside The Substance, which is this film that people are like really raving about. But I didn't see The Substance. I only saw The Shell, and it just did not do much for me.
And I think I liked it a little more than you, even after saying that. With Shell, it gets pretty damn absurd, though. There was definitely some people in that theater. Because it doesn't give you the gradual, like, based on the opening scene, you can kind of see where it's going to end up going, but it still commits to it way harder than I really thought they were ever going to commit to it. And I honestly do think some of that might have been a budgetary restriction. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's almost like it was probably cheaper for them to go all the way on something than halfway on it in terms of what, like, makeup would have required. But yeah, it is just kind of unfortunate that it's up the same year. That was like another big theme of this festival, I find. And then even in the Netflix world with Uglies just coming out, even though that was written in like 2005, it's just this idea of like, yeah, the Uglies, but except it's more like this with the festival specifically. There's like at least 4 movies that very specifically deal with the idea of like women aging, not being able to win. So you kind of end up in these situations where if you do nothing, people are going to comment that you're aging. And then sometimes when you try doing things to stop that aging from happening, people are going to comment on it and make fun of you for that too. So a lot of you women just kind of end up in this place where they can't win. And you do kind of wish you could just freeze yourself in time or find some way to be the perfect version of yourself. Cause like we can't use beards to cover the sag. Like we got nothing, you know? But so it's an interesting theme, and it's just, you've got to, can only get you so far, man. Can only get you so far. I don't know. I'm holding off. I don't wear makeup, so like once I start, that's when you know. It's like she's hiding something now. That's something's being hidden now. But yeah, it was an interesting festival for those themes, and I think some of the movies, even some of the ones I didn't love that much, handled the topic really well. In terms of how it was expressing itself, and The Substance definitely one of them. I can see how it's not going to work for everyone. I do want to stress it is like it goes full body horror. It gets very intense. It gets very gross, but it's very cool. It has some very cool editing every time they talk about The Substance and how it's like cutting in imagery and like the voice behind The Substance.
Also, yeah.
It's really solid editing. I think this is literally Demi like you've never seen her. This is Margaret Qualley doing
great.
what we know she can do, or Qualley to the extreme. Mm-hmm. I love Margaret. I always have. So it was good to kind of see her in
that
this.
montage of all her yelling, for sure.
Yeah, I love the yelling.
It's a great performance.
It's 100%. A great performance. We got Pump It Up, you know. It's good. Easy recommend if you like body horror, if you like any kind of horror, it's worth checking out for sure.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of her previous movie. The director, Qualley, did Revenge. And I thought that was fantastic. Because as Amanda's saying, if you don't like body horror, just know that before going in. I feel people didn't know that before going in. But you're reading a lot of 1 stars where it's not, I saw a sci-fi movie when I don't like space. They're reacting to what the story is. And I'm here to tell you, like, I've seen a lot of people call it, like, male gaze or whatever else it needs to be. Nah, like, Dennis Quaid answers so many of those questions in this film.
He does.
And he is so incredible. So it's crazy to find out that he was supposed to be Ray Liotta before he passed. So the fact that Dennis Quaid comes in and just kills it, some of the most disgusting, vile stuff is just him eating. It's just him eating.
It was vile. It was vile. Oddly enough, eating lobster. But that doesn't mean anything to some of you, but it will.
Coralie, I think, she's smarter than most of the people who are commenting on this not being feminist enough. What she did in Revenge and what she does in this movie, she knows her history so well. She's inverting so much stuff. And what's crazy about The Substance is that it's using body horror as a way to not just really talk about the industry. We already know that. It's talking about the effect it has on the individual. And it's a body horror where the violence is what you do when you see yourself that way. And the violence you're doing on yourself.
That's exactly it.
It's fantastic. Zach, I'm excited for you to watch it.
I hope you like it.
I'm very excited.
I'm like a toss-up on Zach loving or hating it. I don't know. Zach, weren't you supposed to be gone?
No, I can stay for another 20 minutes.
Okay, cool.
So Substance.
All right.
Very good.
My number 3, I'm going to go with The Substance. I think I was the only person who, you've all seen it by now, but I'm the only one who saw it at the festival.
Yeah, it would have made my list if I saw it there, because I saw it last night. So.
Same. Absolutely.
Everything except my number 1 spot for these like final 5 are very interchangeable to me. But I'm going with The Substance here because for me, I think the movie actually peaks probably like 1 scene before the ending. But while I do love the ending and I love that it like commits, this is like a body horror through and through. This is doing every type of body horror you could really imagine in a way that feels like it fits the narrative. And I do feel like there's just some like inner meanings to things that are going on there that some of it feels very like in your face. It's not trying to be subtle at all, which I'm totally fine with, but there is just some layers there that we were kind of talking about a little bit before with Arturo, that like the peeling back the layers and things that some people are having issues with are kind of like the point of like the her being so internal, like misogynistic towards herself is kind of the point. So I guess I'm just rambling without really saying what it is. It is a movie where a woman undergoes an extreme cosmetic surgery in attempts to kind of like maintain her career and be this better version of herself that she feels is slipping away. And it's very much pointing out the the standard changes of women versus men in these positions, and who's allowed to just kind of continue thriving and who has to try to do what is clearly pretty intense, as you can tell by the poster here. What I like about the movie as well is that it kind of lets you know right from the beginning if it's something that you're actually going to be able to handle watching. It doesn't shy away from the gruesomeness early on, like and if that's something you can't handle right from the get-go, it's kind of the sign that like, okay, maybe I will leave, but I think you should stay. I don't think it gets to an area where it's like gratuitously gross. It doesn't feel like gore porn of back in the day. It just feels like something that I've really only seen from, Qualley and the Titan director, whose name is escaping me right now.
Is that Julia Ducournau?
Yeah, Ducournau. Yeah, so it just kind of has that vibe of these women that are going very extreme with their filmmaking, and it really works because they're committing to it. They're presenting an idea that's in a lot of things, but in a way you've never seen before, and they don't shy away from anything. This is just a movie that once it starts going, it never lets up, and it just goes. Incredible performance out of Demi Moore, incredible performance out of Margaret Qualley. I would probably say this is the best thing I've ever seen Demi Moore in, at least like her performance. I think this is probably the best performance of her career because of how far she needs to go in so many different areas and how relatable so much of what she goes through. Like there's this scene where she's supposed to be meeting up with someone and she can't stop going back to the mirror to check all these things. And I know that that's something so many people are going to relate to, and just these nitpicking, all these small minor details.
And that's the thing also about this movie is like you mentioned all the really gnarly body horror, and there is a lot of gnarly body horror in this movie, body horror that like gets under your skin in a particular way because sorry for the pun, but it is about kind of getting under your skin and like seeing these transformations and stuff like that. But ultimately, I think the things that are the most like viscerally upsetting about this movie are those moments like that, where it's like you can feel the anxiety of like picking apart at your looks. Or I love this one moment involving Margaret Qualley's character where everybody's just sort of zooming in on an aspect of her. And like you have this visceral thing like, please don't perceive me. Please don't look at me this closely.
Yeah.
But I think the film just does a really great job of evoking those fears we have around being perceived in the wrong way or looked at and looked at in lights that are unflattering. And so even if it's not necessarily like about like these ideas of vanity, even if there is a lot of that in there, I think it's deeper than just vanity.
It is.
It's about feeling comfortable as yourself, the way that you navigate the world. And, a lot of it is really ultimately about the female experience. But I think it's really interesting that the person who she kind of gets introduced through this through is a man who's also gone under this treatment, right? It's like we're not immune to that self-dissection either.
No.
Ultimately, though, like this is so focused on the way that women's looks are hyper scrutinized, particularly in the entertainment industry. And it does such a good job of sort of just giving you that really visceral horror of it, the grotesque nature of it too, because there is something grotesque even in just the things we do to kind of maintain and preserve our looks. And I don't know, I thought it was extremely effective, even if the overall arc that her character goes on might be a bit predictable. It's just the ways that it happens that constantly surprise you with how gross or outlandish they're willing to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Chase, you enjoyed it too?
Yeah, I saw it last night, not at TIFF, at my local movie theater, and it had a mix of reactions that I miss seeing in movies. A lot of people thought they were just going to get a straight up horror movie. Some people, I guess, didn't find it funny. The couple next to me and my girlfriend said, "You guys made the movie for us because we couldn't stop laughing." I've never heard my girlfriend laugh that hard at anything. So not even my stupid jokes. So I'll take that for what you will. The Substance is absolutely a fun time. Would have made my list. I don't want to spoil it because I know it came out, but I think I kind of agree with Amanda, and I think we can read each other's minds where the same part of the movie kind of peaks, and then more happens, and it fits
still good.
what they're going for. It's still good, But that part before it, I was like, man, if it ended right here, that is the biggest high you could end on. I agree. I think Demi Moore's fantastic in this. I know the Oscars don't really recognize horror performances as much. This is a pretty damn good one, though. And it feels like the lead actress category is starting to become the most stacked this year, which is awesome to see. But I don't think it'll happen. I would love to see her get some sort of nom for this, because she is incredible in this.
Yeah.
Has asked to do a lot, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, her performance in Striptease will always be meaningful to me, but this is probably the best we've ever seen her in a film, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it is a really, really singular movie. I feel like the people who are bringing up Cronenberg are definitely spot on. Like, I get a lot of The Fly from this movie, but it is its own really unique perspective, and really cool. This is one that obviously is out in theaters now, starting to roll out into more places, so keep your eyes peeled for it. It's definitely going to be one of the movies of the year.